Hi, Carrie. Jeff Allen here. Just saw your post about the where will the next generation of localization industry leaders come from, and could it be from U.S. or wherever? And you told your story about your background in languages and how that came to be, and I had a pretty similar one. I in my junior high school year, I think the first year of junior high school in seventh grade, there was a, you could take Spanish and French. So I took that and I really liked it. Then I did math again and stuff. And then in 10th grade, I said, I'm going to do it again, language. And from 10th to 12th grade, I did French and Spanish. Now, I was actually a French and Spanish language teaching assistant during my senior high school, and got an award, a high school award for that. So that's kind of unusual, right? Even back then, in the 1980s. Early 1980s. So, and then I went on to do a degree in text analysis, multilingual text analysis, and hermeneutics of ancient texts, and then a bachelor's in French as well, and then on to do a master's and doctorate degrees in linguistics and computational linguistics, and I was a language teacher for some universities, a few universities, and was an assistant director of a student abroad program too in France with the U.S. But and then taught professionals, executives and stuff for a number of years, working in translation and in teaching, language teaching, cultural teaching, cross cultural teaching. So I've seen all this stuff and done it, and that's what kind of got me into it. And having a family, my father was born in China with parents that are expatriates, and my grandfather was born in China, actually. So from a family that was an expatriate situation. So I grew up hearing about China, right? So it just was kind of natural. But now, as we're look to where things are today, and I talk with a lot of people in the language industry, language field, that where things are. I've lived in Europe for 35 years, so it's a much different here in Europe. It's multilingual, right? I mean, you go drive 200 miles, 300 miles in another country with a different language, right? So it's kind of a necessity here, whereas in the States you can drive 3,000 miles, you don't speak another language, unless you grew up like I did, in Portland, Oregon area, where you can drive, you can drive. I drive in the suburbs. You could drive 15, 20 miles, and you could be in Spanish-speaking community, picking berries and stuff. So that's easy. But if you don't, unless you're in center big towns, big cities and stuff where multiculturalism is a normal thing, you live in a rural or semi-rural U.S., there's no need for speaking languages, unless there's a Spanish-speaking community around, or some Asian language community around, in general. I mean, you know what I mean? So it kind of depends. But now it's a whole different situation. Now with diversity and inclusion coming about and all that stuff, and a focus on that, we'll see how that goes. But there just isn't a need to speak other languages. At least it's not it's not a promoted need now. And then we get a lot of different groups and associations and language teachers and stuff that focus on that. It's interesting. See, we said that the amount of requirements for language learning has gone down. Just that there aren't as many as well. So it's something I've spent my whole life supporting, my whole career supporting, mainly in Europe, but sometimes some in the U.S. when I was working for a number of companies and projects there. But it's whatever this needs to be, needs some help. I'm interested in doing it. So whatever to get it going, find some fundraising stuff and get things going. I think it's a really important thing. I do believe it's important, but it's kind of sad to see that there's a regression toward not needing it. Whereas you drive across the border down to Mexico and you're in Tijuana and whatever, you speak Spanish. You go to San Diego to speak Spanish, right? So, and you drive up to Quebec, you can speak other languages. And there are lots of places you can go, but I just don't think that there's a perceived need. Unless I think you're on the borders. If you're really on the West Coast and you're on the East Coast, there's this kind of thing that the other countries on the other side of those two bodies of water exist, but in the middle I've lived in central U.S. and it's true that I lived for a number of years. I felt like a fish out of water living there too, just as much as my French wife was. I felt kind of weird because I was from the West Coast, but yeah, I totally get it. So whatever ways to support things and to promote supporting these kinds of things, let me know and we'll talk about it. Take care.